this idea and this concept could be huge for smaller acreage right now, smaller acreage crops. But going back to the pasture thing, I mean, if we can prove that we can successfully, which these are a lot of ifs, and these are pretty big ifs, but if we could successfully map out a pasture that's got a spot of weeds here and there, and then navigate to that with a drone and spray it, that's pretty huge.
It's a bird, it's a plane, no, it's a UAV doing applications of herbicide. Today on the AgNow Roundup. Well, good morning and welcome to the AgNow Roundup. My name is Dave Deacon. We all know that there's herbicide technology changes all the time, but over the past few years, there's been some pretty creative changes in how those herbicides are applied. And today we're talking with Dr. Kevin Bradley with the University of Missouri Extension Service to find out what kind of research they're doing into herbicide applications using drones or UAVs. And we'll have that in just a few minutes, but first, let's take a look at the weather around the Ag Nation with meteorologist Matt Makins.
AgNow weather time, Matt Makins here. Don't know about you or your area. Mine has certainly gotten hot. I went down into the cities yesterday, triple digits, mid-90s at my place, and I'm at a considerable elevation. So for us to hit the mid-90s, that's something. Very hot. As we look at the hazards, heat is a big issue, especially central and eastern areas. And then we're going to bring back warm temperatures again for the west as well. Let's kind of dissect this map. Wipe it clean, start with just breaking it down into some pieces, if you will. Heavy rainfall for the north. We have the upper Midwest, parts of the Corn Belt. They're going to have some very heavy rainfall all the way through the 18th. Also heavy rainfall moving into around Houston. Really impressive precip map to show you in just a second. Heat now covers all these red areas. That's basically the country with hot weather coming in the next week to 10 days and then beyond. Obviously, we're only talking about short term right now. Significant hazards as well. Wind for the high plains here in the Rocky Mountain region from Wyoming south to Mexico. So wind is another factor we'll discuss today. Let's start with some of the soils. Here's a soil outlook. Really, it's the drought outlook, but the soil conditions as we go throughout the summer. So this is the drought outlook June through August. So your summer months, where may we see improvement? Upper Midwest, parts of Iowa continue to improve. Flint Hills, perhaps a little bit of improvement. But here's the area where drought will either remain or grow. And those deeper orange colors you see in the Four Corners region up to the northwest, that is drought growth. So that's going to be growing throughout prime grass country, wheat country, far western fringes of corn areas. So we have a lot of crops in that region, obviously, in addition to some good grasses and pastures that we're going to have to worry about drought for the rest of the summer. Drought growth and everything associated with that, not just being dry, but warm temperatures, unusually warm. And we'll also have to worry about a fire threat, the kind of the rangeland fires or even the wildfires of the Rocky Mountains. So that's your drought outlook throughout the course of summer. Let's take a look at the timeline. In the short term, that is, over the next week to 10 days, and you're going to track the thunderstorms and the storm complexes as they pop up. Really, most of the activity is going to be along I-25 and east of, although the Pacific Northwest does catch a few thunderstorms as well. Up into Canada, those prairies, that corn country, really good outlook for them. Moisture's coming in as we go throughout the next week to 10 days. Another area to watch is down here across the south, from Texas toward Florida, a lot of rainfall. A lot of heat in that Gulf of Mexico. We have to worry about hurricanes and an active hurricane season. Right now, a lot of tropical moisture headed that way. Speaking of moisture, let's take a look at some of those maps now. This is total moisture for the next week. We have Canada painted in with quite a bit of color there. That's easily an inch, if not more, closer to an inch and a half in a lot of cases of water there. In some cases, they're struggling to plant. They're switching from corn to soybeans and things because they've gotten so much water. An area that needs water in the States has been Iowa and Minnesota, and we have a lot of that coming through. A lot of water here. Let's fly that map in. So this bullseye from Minneapolis almost down to Omaha and outside of Sioux Falls, that bullseye of reds there is 2.5 to 3s and 4s, and isolated 5 or 6 inch totals would not be totally out of the question question depending on the thunderstorm complexes as they arrive here. Take this region, let's go down to the south. So we have the Gulf Coast is here, we have New Orleans and Houston, and in between the two, that area is going to be inundated with water. Some folks may pick up 10, 11, 12 inches of rainfall there in that coastal area. So a lot of water in that part of the country. Let's turn back to the hazards quickly again. As far as the temperatures, these areas of heat, let's see what this translates to. That translates to record-setting temperatures. Triple digits across the Southwest and the Four Corners region. We have 114 down in Southern California. We have some triple digits here for the Delta region, but mostly middle and upper 90s as you look at the east. So a lot of heat out there. In addition to that, we talked about wind. In this wind area, the high plains, let me show you kind of a composite or a threshold, if you will, of winds. So the likelihood of reaching 30 miles an hour, likelihood of reaching 40, 50 or 60 miles an hour, and like the 40 or 50 mile per hour map, these are high probabilities of winds reaching at least that speed throughout the next week or so. That's a lot of the country to at least hit 40 miles an hour, and 50 mile per hour wind gusts kind of focus on Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska. And this is not considering thunderstorm winds. This is just a windy outlook, okay? I know the topic of today's show is talking about drones and how they can be used. Can't use drone if it's too windy. And we were just talking about the winds, whether it be drone usage or fertilizer applications, anything like that. I have a lot of clients that all they want is wind data. So here's an example for Ninja. She lives out in northeastern Colorado. She wants the wind for the next 3 days. When it's gusty, the directions and all that helps her with her fertilizer application. So something to consider if you're needing really good wind data, reach out to me, makinsweather.com. We'll help you out. And finally, here are the weekly outlooks going forward the next 4 weeks. Pockets of cooler weather for the next week over the Pacific Northwest. Hot throughout the central areas, of course. We talked about the record temperatures. Then week 2, 3, and 4, more about the heat across the country versus any cooler areas. So summer is certainly in full swing here with temperatures. As far as moisture is concerned, here's the next week. We highlighted the upper Midwest. We highlighted areas of Texas. Texas remains wet in week 2, as does the upper Midwest. Week 3 and week 4, we're still seeing some spots across the Gulf Coast to watch out for. And into week 4, we still have moisture to spread out in parts of Canada. So that kind of gets you through the next month to month and a half. Plus the seasonal outlook for the drought shows where we have our greatest concerns. That's this week's AgNow Weather Report. Matt Makins here. We'll see you next time.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. This is a very busy time of year for weather because it does impact agriculture, and we appreciate all that you do to help us prepare for the upcoming weather when it comes to planting crops and making applications. Now, on the application front, we are talking with Dr. Kevin Bradley with the University of Missouri's Extension Service. He is a weed scientist with them. And Dr. Bradley, you are actually working on some projects right now when it comes to drones or UAVs and applications of those herbicides and other fungicides as well.
Yeah, we're looking into mostly from a weed control and herbicide standpoint. I know there's been a lot done with fungicides in a variety of crops, and I think there's a lot of great universities, great weed scientists doing more recently with weed control and herbicides and how that might fit. But we're really it's kind of a new area. So some of the just briefly, some of the things we've been doing are just looking at coverage with drone or UAV applications, what kind of nozzles, or really we don't have much choice about the nozzles, and that's one of the issues, but what kind of droplets are we going to get out of these kind of specialized nozzles that drones have? What kind of application parameters are going to be ideal if we do move in this area? It's another thing we've been looking at. This year we're looking at not just post-herbicide applications anymore, but if we ever move in this area, pre-residual herbicide applications, would that work? And then again, this year we started a new project where we're trying to see how successfully we could map a field for weeds, plug that into the UAV that's going to spray, and how successfully UAV might be able to navigate to those areas and just spray escapes or just little patches of weeds. So that's kind of in a nutshell all of the different kinds of things we've been doing.
In those in your research, have you been working with producers, or has this primarily been on research stations?
Both. So we've got great partnerships with producers and retailers, I'll say.
Oh, really?
One of our biggest retailers that does a lot of the spraying in this state is called MFA. Missouri's kind of unique that way. MFA has stores in every single county, and like I said, I don't know what the percentage is, but they do the majority of custom applications in Missouri. So we partnered with them to do some ground rig versus drone comparisons, and kind of some bigger, larger field strip type of thing. And of course, we need farmers for that are willing to let us use their fields. We did our first one of the year just yesterday in a farmer field. We also do some here on our research stations in Missouri. Just depends on the size of the trial and what we're trying to accomplish. But so it's kind of a mix of both.
Whenever you're working with the producers on their property, what kind of questions? What is their feedback from this UAV that's flying across 10 feet above their property that's supposed to actually kill the weeds? What kind of reaction are you getting from them?
Well, everybody, and I think more and more people have gotten to the point where they've seen it now, but everybody likes to see it. It's kind of neat. It's different. It's new. But I think mostly they just have the same questions we have. If we're going this way in the marketplace in the future, are these applications going to be able to deliver the same kind of results as the ground rigs and all of the, what I tell growers and people at all kinds of field days and everything is, we might be expecting a little too much too quickly. I mean, we've had 100 years of research that have gone into ground rigs and nozzles and making those things work pretty well. I mean, like they deliver some pretty impressive results. We've had 4 or 5 years of drone research at most, I would say, in the U.S. at least, of really, especially when you start talking about herbicides, it's probably been even less than 4 or 5 years. So it's just we're just on the edge of this thing, and I think mostly they have a lot of the same questions we have, and they want to know if they ever go down this route of maybe getting their own, or maybe even having somebody custom apply. They want to know that it's going to work and work just as good as the other.
In your brief studies, are you seeing any movements in efficacy whenever it comes to actually eliminating the weeds that you're targeting?
We had some studies last year that showed no differences between a ground rig and a spray drone, which is good news from the standpoint of if you're looking for I guess equality here. But we also had some other studies that where we were basically evaluating a bunch of different drone parameters. We weren't comparing it to a ground rig. We were just looking at height of the drone, we were looking at speed of the drone and different sprayer settings and things. And in that study, yes, we could find some parameters that I would not recommend, so we can rule those out.
Right.
And then there's some other things that work better. So we're going to continue doing that. Like I said, this year, we never sprayed a pre-emergence residual with a drone. I don't know if that's going to provide enough volume of material to do a good job or not. We've done some of those studies. They're just now, soybeans are planted this week, so we'll see how all that goes. The spraying occurred this week also, I believe. Yeah, or maybe it was the end of last week. Everything's starting to run together. But yeah, so all of these studies are ongoing, and really look forward to seeing the results. But I guess the some of the good news from our results last year is we did have some studies where, from a weed control standpoint, we got similar levels of control.
The one thing that I'm looking forward to is whenever we get into the droplet size variability there, because that's as important as actually getting the herbicide to the plant. And being so early into your project, I doubt that that's really a focus right now. But will that be in the future?
Actually, it's probably our number one focus and the thing that we have the most results on. Gotcha. That we feel pretty good about. So we've been pretty open and honest that we need to have bigger droplets with these UAV applications. It's a whole different kind of nozzle. It's an atomization nozzle. It's not like anything we use on a ground rig. And at least most of the UAVs that I'm familiar with have that kind of nozzle. Some of the older models of UAVs that first came out actually had nozzles that you could change just like on a ground rig. But from what I have seen in talking to experts in the area, manufacturers and others, it seems like a lot of these companies are going to pretty much stick with this atomization nozzle. And so, the droplets is an issue. It's also something that they say can be fixed with more software updates and things like that. And so I know even last summer we had a software update show up all of a sudden, and it was about the nozzles and the droplet size, and they were working on making those bigger. And so, right now, from my concern as a weed scientist with off-target movement, I think we still need more work on getting those droplet size bigger. But that's going to have to be for the engineers and everybody else. All we can do is evaluate the units that are out there.
You've kind of alluded to it already, but one of the great things I get to talk with researchers and extension folks from all over the country, and you already have kind of addressed this, but what direction of research are you going to be taking in the future whenever it does come to UAV and drone applications of herbicides?
Well, obviously, I work mostly in corn and soybean,
right.
But I also work in pastures, and I don't really work in small specialty crop markets. But I think this idea and this concept could be huge for smaller acreage right now, smaller acreage crops. But going back to the pasture thing, I mean, if we can prove that we can successfully, which these are a lot of ifs, and these are pretty big ifs, but if we could successfully map out a pasture that's got a spot of weeds here and there, and then navigate to that with a drone and spray it, that's pretty huge. Mm-hmm. That would be a great tool to have. So we're interested in looking at that for sure. We do pasture weed management work as well. In Missouri, that's kind of the three things that I do is soybean, corn, and pastures. But or even from the standpoint of you got a soybean field and you're in July or August, and nobody's going to make a broadcast spray anymore, right. But you got a few weeds sticking above the canopy. Even from that standpoint, that would be pretty valuable to be able to just go and spot spray some places. So I think that's a huge area and one that we'll be focusing on in the future. But that doesn't discount that we're still going to try to keep on getting these droplets right and all of that kind of stuff, and kind of dialing in the ideal application parameters, because I think a lot of times in our marketplace in agriculture, we're pretty, farmers and retailers even, but they will adopt things pretty rapidly. I think the public has a wrong view of that we're kind of old fashioned and don't know technology and all that. But I speak to a lot of people that are buying these things and are adopting these things pretty rapidly. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of research right. out there tell these guys what to do with it yet. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, it sounds like a very exciting time for the application of new technology into one of the oldest professions of weed management. So it sounds like a very exciting time for you. Thank you so much, Dr. Bradley, for going on with us today and explaining what you're doing there in Missouri.
Glad to do it.
And of course, thank you for watching this episode of the AgNow Roundup. If there's something on the show that you'd like to learn more about from this guest or previous guest, you can find it all at agnowtv.com. While you're there, check out our social media accounts, sign up for our email, and you can also download the AgNow TV app. It's all available right there at agnowtv.com. Rooted in research and proven for producers, I'm Dave Deacon for AgNow.